All right, y'all, welcome to the show. I got an amazing one for you. There's a lot going on. So in just a second, Trump comes out and asserts, I'm a king, bitch. What are you going to do about it? You're going to do nothing about it. So we'll talk about that. Got a video that breaks it down for you, or a video of his commentary, and then I'll break it down for you. Then we'll get to Elon Musk is now distancing himself from Doge. He is disowning Doge. Now, I know that sounds weird as hell, but you'll understand exactly why he's doing it when I walk you through it. Then we'll get to the streets being flooded with anti-Trump and anti-Elon protests, if you want a little bit of hope on such a gloomy, disgusting day and a dark time. We'll also get to, this is wild, bro, but Trump is basically demanding U.S. colonization of Ukraine. Wait until you hear that story. This is, I mean, I say it every day, but we've entered like a new dark chapter of American history where we've just regressed to 1800s-style imperialism. I'll walk you through that as well. Republican politicians are now low-key seething at Trump's insanity and Elon's insanity. We'll discuss the incredibly dopey lie that Elon Musk told about Social Security, which is now being used to justify cutting Social Security and destroying Social Security. And then AOC versus the meathead border czar later on. And holy cow, the news coming out of Brazil, man. I mean, what do you even say about it? Basically, the former president, Jair Bolsonaro, got caught in an illegal coup plot trying to poison President Lula. As I said, we are rolling back the clock, not just here, but everywhere, bro. Like human rights, civil rights, international law, reason, sanity, justice, going, gone. So we'll talk about all that and more. You guys know the drill. Everybody do me a big favor. Please subscribe to the channel. That's below. That helps out massively. Helps spread these videos out through the algorithm. And of course, the most love I could possibly muster to give goes out to all of you who support this show on Patreon. This is real independent media, not fake independent media. I've never talked to an advertiser or a corporation or a billionaire or a government. The funding comes from small dollar donations every month from you lovely people. We have that in the default ads on YouTube. So as I said, we are truly independent, not fake independent like so many in this space unfortunately are. All right, so without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive into it. So Trump had a press conference the other day, and look, unfortunately, we're used to these sorts of antics. This is like a very Trumpian type moment. But if you actually pay attention to what he's saying here and you look at what he's doing, we really crossed the Rubicon. There's no way around that. So here we go. Let's listen, and then I'll give you some more information on it.
Lastly, we have another executive order that President Trump signed relating to independent agencies. This executive order would establish important oversight functions in the Office of Management and Budget and its subsidiary office, OIRA, supervising independent agencies and many of their actions, and also reestablishes the longstanding norm that only the President or the Attorney General can speak for the United States when stating an opinion as to what the law is.
Thank you very much, Will. That was the primary purpose of this conference.
So now, if you know nothing about politics, you might hear that and go, well, what's the big deal? The president says what the law is. Well, he used the word only in there, which is sort of super important, but I'll play it for you one more time, and then I'll tell you what it means.
The longstanding norm that only the President or the Attorney General can speak for the United States when stating an opinion as to what the law is.
This is a direct and giant, colossal, gargantuan middle finger to the courts, where he's announcing up front, yes, I'm going to defy your court orders, and there's nothing you can do about it. I dare you. Try. You got nothing. You want to stop me? Go ahead and stop me with your army. Oh, that's right. You don't have an army. And I do. I'm the commander-in-chief. So what I say goes. Now remember, this is happening at the same time. There are 23 lawsuits against Trump and Elon. And actually, that number may have gone up because that's an article from maybe a week or so ago. There were 23 lawsuits. There may even be more now around all the illegal actions that they've done. And so far, everything I've seen is, hey, you can't do that. Hey, you can't cut that funding. Hey, you can't redirect those funds. Hey, you can't hack around in the back end of the Treasury. Hey, you can't go into various government agencies illegally with 19-year-old hackers who have sketchy backgrounds and have never had a background check to have, clearance for classified information. He's just admitting in a press conference like, yes, I'm going to defy the courts, and yes, I'm asserting that's legal. Now, what makes this so terrifying, y'all, is that the Supreme Court gave him the green light. Remember that Supreme Court decision that said, hey, as long as what the president is doing, as long as he thinks it's an official act, he's allowed to do it. Well, now the chickens are coming home to roost, dog. Like, that's what this is. This is, only I can assert what the law is, myself or the Attorney General, and of course the Attorney General is Pam Bondi. That's a puppet of Trump anyway. He's literally announcing in a press conference, yes, I'm going to defy the courts. But it's okay, because I am the one on solid legal grounds. That's what he's asserting. So he's saying, I have the powers of a king. I have the powers of a tyrant or a dictator or an emperor. That's what he's doing. Now, this is not just a giant middle finger and a giant FU to the courts. This actually goes a level deeper, too. So let me give you, this is directly from the fact sheet that the White House released on what he said here. Ready? It says, fact sheet, President Donald J. Trump reins in independent agencies to restore a government that answers to the American people. So we have these independent agencies, and the reason we have these independent agencies is because sometimes you need experts in certain fields to really parse through all of the details of different topics, right? So, like, Donald Trump is not an expert, for example, in environmental protection. He doesn't know the first fucking thing about that. So obviously at the EPA, you'd want some independent experts who know about environmental protection, know what they're looking for, know what chemicals are bad, know, what the rules are, and sometimes they can even craft their own rules under the guise of a broader law, which gives them leeway to basically fill in the specifics. That's the way our government works. What he's trying to do here is say, no, I have the last say on everything, and we don't need no fucking independent experts for shit. That's what he's saying. So here's what they say. Restoring democracy and accountability in government. Notice the Orwellian language, because basically what's happening here is the exact opposite of what he's claiming. This is not like a return to democracy and accountability. It's saying, I am the overlord God king, and I get to call all the shots, even in areas where I know nothing about it. Today, President Donald J. Trump signed an executive order ensuring that all federal agencies are accountable to the American people as required by the Constitution. Under this executive order, the order notes that Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution vests all executive power in the president, meaning that all executive branch officials and employees are subject to his supervision. So in other words, any non-political or apolitical civil servant types, he's like, no, we're just going to replace them with MAGA loyalists who don't know their ass from their elbow. Therefore, because all executive power is vested in the president, all agencies must, 1, submit draft regulations for White House review with no carve-out for so-called independent agencies except for the monetary policy functions of the Federal Reserve, and 2, consult with the White House on their priorities and strategic plans, and the White House will set their performance standards. So another thing that we've seen in line with this are now loyalty tests. They're a loyalty test to get any position. The Office of Management and Budget will adjust so-called independent agencies' apportionments to ensure tax dollars are spent wisely. The President and Attorney General, subject to the President's supervision and control, will interpret the law for the executive branch instead of having separate agencies adopt conflicting interpretations. So this is a war on the civil service. This is a war on independent agencies with expertise. This is a war on having any people in the executive branch that are just sort of serious technicians, engineers, dot the I's, cross the T's, carry everything out to the best of their abilities. This is like, give me all of the massive, colossal partisan hacks to carry out my wishes and my wishes alone. And of course, that's going to end bad. So this may sound familiar to you. If it does, it's because under Project 2025, they had this thing called Schedule F. And Schedule F is basically the total destruction of the entire civil service. So this article here actually goes through that in quite a bit of detail about how what they're looking at is replacing up or just firing as many as 50,000 federal workers and replacing them with yes men. And also, I should point out, what Trump is doing here is in direct contravention to what the courts have ruled over the years. In other words, the courts say there is a space for independent agencies. There is a space for civil servants. And Trump is saying here, No, there isn't. So this is a 2-for-1. Number one, he's saying, I'm going to defy the courts. Fuck the courts. My word is everything. No judge can tell me what the law is. And number two, it's we're going to replace all of the civil servants, all of the apolitical people in government, all of the experts in government, and we're going to replace them with complete MAGA loyalist sycophants. Now, by the way, the same day, Trump comes out and gives this speech saying, I alone determine what the law is. Look at this. The Trump administration has just told a federal judge in a court filing that it will not comply with the court's order to resume funding for U.S. aid and State Department foreign assistance. So, in other words, all of the illegal stuff that Doge did, where Elon Musk hacked into the back end of the Treasury, was collecting data, putting it on a private server, collecting everybody's social security information, bank account information, hacking into different government agencies, dismantling those government agencies like the Department of Education, like USAID, all of this wildly illegal, wildly unconstitutional. Every federal judge says, yeah, you're not allowed to do this. It's not even close. Even right-wing judges, even judges appointed by Trump, said the same thing. This is Trump responding to one of these federal judges that said, hey, you can't just dismantle USAID on a whim. That money was appropriated by Congress to go in this direction, to go for this agency. It was signed by the president. So now you can't just willy-nilly say, I want to get rid of it myself personally. That's not how it works. He's like, I don't care. I say that is how it works. And what are you going to do about it? You're going to do nothing. I'm going to defy your court order to, reinstate these USAID jobs and the USAID funding. I'm just going to be in open defiance of you. And again, you can thank the Supreme Court for saying, as long as you think your action is official, you can do whatever you want, right? And so now what we're going to see is, and truly a constitutional crisis, truly a coup. But what we're going to see is this is going to work its way up through the court system, right? And every judge is going to say the same thing. And then it's going to get in front of the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, if they're being honest, they will say, yes, every other court was correct. You're not allowed to do this, right? And then Trump may just say, fuck the Supreme Court too. We're not going to abide by the Supreme Court either, right? Or what may happen is the Supreme Court notices, hey, they're never going to, if we rule against them, they're never going to abide by it. Trump has made that perfectly clear. So since that's the case, we're going to go ahead and give them some sort of intellectual and legal cover and say, actually, technically, maybe they're allowed to do this because of reasons X, Y, and Z, right? And the Supreme Court would do that in order to try to keep the perception of their power, knowing, hey, if we rule against him and he overrides us, it's very clear the emperor has no clothes, or the emperors have no clothes. The Supreme Court justices have no clothes, and we have no real power, right? So, as I said, this is a deep, deep constitutional crisis now, because they've abided by some little parts of some court decisions here and there, but clearly there's a broader plot here to get away with whatever they feel like they can get away with, and this is Trump overreaching and acting like, no, if I do defy your court order, I am justified to defy your court order, right? It's that simple. And so, 2-for-1 destruction of democracy the other day, literally calling a press conference to assert the powers of a king or an emperor or a tyrant or a dictator, and also the destruction of the civil servants and the apolitical experts in our government, non-political experts in our government, who do all the grunt work, who do all the real work, who can dot the I's and cross the T's and figure out how to actually implement the laws that are passed by Congress. You need experts to fill in the blank spaces. And now he's saying, fuck that. We want nothing but sycophantic loyalists. And I mean, this is all of the groundwork for, I'm just going to stay in power, right? I'm just going to stay in power. And so, I mean, I feel like a broken record coming out here every day saying the same goddamn thing, constitutional crisis, coup attempt, etc. But they keep making it more and more and more and more obvious. There is no, there is no dog whistle anymore. This is a fucking foghorn directly in your face. And so we'll discuss it in a little bit, but the people understand what's going on here. The people understand what's going on. Everybody's blood is boiling, and everybody is flooding into the streets and calling this out for what it is. And so we need to bring that kind of energy forward. We need to make sure we have Democratic politicians who stand up to this nonsense, which they're largely failing at this point, most of the party. There's 1,000 different ways we can go about fighting back, and I'll do a segment on that tomorrow as well when it comes to Elon Musk and how to defeat him in particular. But understand, this is a turning point. This is, as I said, we crossed the Rubicon. And if we just lay back and let it happen, that bodes very, very dark for the future. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.